What about you, sir? Do you think the colored students will show up?
If I got anything to do with it, they won't show up. Well, I think it's a breaking point of the school integration. I just don't feel that they have a right to go to school.
On September 4th, 1957, 10 African American students attempted to enter Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. They were barred from entering by the Arkansas National Guard on the orders of Governor Orville Faubus. Only 9 returned and successfully integrated Central High School that year. Those students were Minna Jean Brown, Elizabeth Eckford, Ernest Green, Thelma Mothershed, Melba Patillo, Gloria Ray, Terrence Roberts, Jefferson Thomas, and Carlotta Walls. They were the Little Rock Nine.
Slavery in the United States was outlawed with the outcome of the Civil War, but injustice towards African Americans still persisted. Schools for black students existed. However, the schools for white students had higher standards. This was because of the separate but equal policy that came about in the Plessy versus Ferguson court case of 1896. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, was the most prominent advocate for African Americans' rights during the 1950s, especially for the desegregation of schools. During this time period, the NAACP fought many court cases of school segregation with the Supreme Court under the argument that separate but equal went against the 14th Amendment. The court case that changed the Supreme Court's perspective was Brown v. Board of Education. In the Brown v. Board of Education case, the Supreme Court stated, "We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place."
Desegregation of schools was immediately ordered. On the day that the Brown v. Board of Education case was passed, Melba Patillo was walking home from school when a white man attempted to rape her because he was angry over the Brown v. Board of Education decision. Fortunately, she escaped. The integration of Little Rock schools had 3 phases, the first being to integrate Central High School. Out of all the applicants, Superintendent Virgil Blossom handpicked 10 students who were mentally and emotionally equipped for this transition. The 10 students had all applied for reasons such as better academics, closer distance to home, and the civil rights impact. The decision to integrate Central was inevitably met with opposition.
One source of opposition was a lawsuit filed by Mrs. Clyde Thomason, recording secretary of the Mothers League, a group formed by mothers of Central students who were against integration. Thomason filed it on August 27th of 1957 to temporarily prevent the integration of Central. In the hearing 2 days later, on August 29th, Marvin Potts, Little Rock Police Chief, Dr. William Cooper Jr., Little Rock School Board President, and Superintendent Blossom all testified against Thomason. But Miss Thomason had one ultimate witness, Governor Orville Faubus, who testified on the side of Thomason. Judge Murray Reed ruled in favor of Mrs. Thomason and Governor Faubus.
This decision did not deter Bates. NAACP lawyers Thurgood Marshall and Wiley Branton took the case to be reconsidered at the United States District Court the next day. Judge Ronald Davies overturned the decision and integration continued as planned. On September 4th, Elizabeth Eckford arrived at Central and was met by a mob, with the Arkansas National Guard surrounding the school. Whenever she attempted to go past the soldiers, they blocked her from passing. She realized then that the soldiers were not there to protect her, but to intercept her from entering the school. The whole time this was occurring, Elizabeth was being yelled at. One student, Hazel Bryan, viciously screamed at her. Years later, Hazel would formally apologize, and the 2 women kept in contact for years with a good relationship. Elizabeth had to keep a straight face and not let her emotions get the best of her. Elizabeth sat down on a bus stop bench, and a white woman named Grace Lorch came up and spoke to her, and helped Elizabeth board a bus. The hecklers then turned some of their rage on Grace. She reprimanded them by saying, "Why don't you just calm down? I'm not here to fight with you. 6 months from now, you'll be ashamed of what you're doing." The other 9 also arrived at school, but not by themselves, so they were able to flee without as much trouble as Elizabeth faced. They were also not allowed into Central that day. When denied entrance by the Arkansas National Guard, Ernest Green asked them, "You're not going to let us in? Is that what you're telling us?" After that fateful first day, Jane Hill did not return with the others. Her father's job security had been threatened if his daughter continued to integrate Central. Regardless that Jane did not return to Central, her father lost his job. The 9 did not go back to school for weeks due to the precedent violence. They had to go back to court on September 20th to be approved to continue the integration. The court ordered for the 9 to start school the following Monday, September 23rd. They entered Central undetected through a side door. When the public realized that they were in, there was an uproar as parents protested and students left Central.
Just got a report here on this end that the students are in.
The protester slogan, President Dwight Eisenhower mobilized the 101st Airborne Troops to protect the students. The 9 entered Central on September 25th with the aid of the 101st Airborne.
Such an extreme situation has been created in Little Rock.
The school year the 9 faced was brutal. Every day they endured being spat upon and physical and verbal abuse, such as bitter name-calling, being pushed into lockers, and down stairways. The teachers ignored it, so the abusers were hardly punished for their actions. The 9 had to control their anger because they would be called out for their actions. On December 17th, Minnie Jean Brown had reached her limit. While walking from the lunch line to sit down, she was being heckled by some boys. She dumped her bowl of chili on them. Minnie Jean was suspended. The new slogan going around Central was, Less than a month later, Minnie Jean was accused of retaliating against a boy who was bullying her. After Minnie Jean's recent incident, Virgil Blossom expelled her. Minnie Jean was quoted in the Arkansas Democrat. "They throw rocks, they spill ink on your clothes, they bother you every minute." The school year closed out in triumph for the 9 when Ernest Green walked across the stage and collected his diploma on graduation day. He was not applauded as the rest of the graduates, but as Melba's mother told her, "Lots of people in the rest of the world are applauding for Ernie and for all of you who made it through this year." The 9 were ready to go back to Central High School for the 1958-1959 school year, but Governor Faubus closed all Little Rock schools that year. The 9 each continued their education in different ways that school year. The 9 were also not able to stay in Little Rock because a bounty was out for them.
2 of the original 9, Carlotta Walls and Jefferson Thomas, returned to Central for the 1959-1960 school year. The violence was still very prevalent. On February 9th of 1960, a bomb was planted and exploded on the front lawn of Carlotta's family's home. No one was hurt, but the perpetrator was never convicted. Both Carlotta and Jefferson successfully graduated that year. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 gave power to the United States to provide injunctive relief against discrimination in public accommodations, to authorize the Attorney General to institute suits to protect constitutional rights in public facilities and public education. In 1972, Central hired its first black principal, Edwin Hawkins. Every year, Central commemorates Little Rock 9, and many of the students have had the opportunity to meet them. Central High's current principal, Nancy Rousseau, says on the Little Rock 9, "The bravery shown by these young people and their families changed the face of public education in this country. Now, 2,400 students get to celebrate their differences every day, thanks to your courage."
In 1958, the 9 were awarded the Spingarn Award from the NAACP. They were also awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in October of 1998 by President Bill Clinton. The 9 continued to spread their message through motivational speaking and by authoring books. They began a scholarship granting program, the Little Rock 9 Foundation. Groups that promote the lives of Blacks still exist, such as the NAACP and Black Lives Matter. 8 of the 9 are still alive today, except Jefferson Thomas, who died in September of 2010. The actions of these 9 inspiring people live on today. Their actions have forever changed the course of school history and the history of Little Rock to what it is today, a free place where the past lives on in infamy.